How many generals and admirals have you fired?
I don't know the exact number, but...
You don't know the number. It's 8. Can you explain why any of them were fired? Like, just explain, why was the Army JAG fired? Why did you fire him?
They all serve at the pleasure of the president, and I think...
No, I'm just asking you why.
General Kane is a great example
I'm just asking you why.
That we
and
need
you probably learned at Princeton what why means. Why did you fire him?
They serve at the pleasure of the president, and we want better representation in each and every of those.
You can't explain why you fired any of them?
What you just saw was the U.S. Secretary of Defense being asked a simple question: how many generals and admirals has he fired? Pete Hegseth couldn't provide an answer. The number is 8. And when asked to explain why, he fell back on the same familiar response: they serve at the pleasure of the president. Instead of offering accountability, he avoided giving any specific justification. Critics argue this reflects a leadership style driven more by loyalty than transparency, raising questions about how personnel decisions are being made at the Pentagon. If you found this exchange as striking as many others have, leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. And the questioning only becomes more intense once he's pressed about the actual results of his leadership.
I'm asking if it applies to you.
Successfully.
I'm not asking about the
previous administration let our ships get shot at, and nothing was done about it. And thankfully, because of the skill and courage of our troops on the battlefield,
asking about
we actually put them in a place where they called for a ceasefire.
I reclaim my time. I'm just asking if accountability applies to you. It's a very simple question. We use leadership by example.
Of course. Unlike, I serve at the pleasure of the president like everybody else does.
So it only applies to the president, not to you?
I serve at the pleasure.
You talked about the success of the Houthi operation. About how much money did it cost? How much money did you spend on missiles shooting at the Houthis?
Well, you'd have to compare that with what it cost.
I'm just asking how much did it cost?
Divert our shipping lanes around.
I'm told it's several $100 million, maybe close to $1 billion. How many U.S.-flagged commercial ships have transited the Red Sea since your so-called successful operation?
Well, thankfully, unlike the previous administration...
The answer is 0.
Military vessels transit...
No, I didn't ask about military vessels. I asked
which would
about
be the
commercial
precursor
vessels.
for...
How many commercial vessels?
Transit.
It's been several weeks. How many commercial vessels, U.S. flagged, have transited the Red Sea?
Would you, Mr. Congressman, put civilian ships
The questions are not to me, Mr. Secretary, they're to you.
We have responsibly put military...
The answer is 0. I reclaim my time.
Hundreds of millions of dollars, possibly approaching $1 billion, were spent on missiles during the operation. Yet critics point to one troubling question: how many U.S.-flagged commercial ships have safely resumed transiting the Red Sea as a result? They argue the answer is still 0. When pressed on whether accountability should also apply to his own performance, Pete Hegseth returned to the same familiar response: I serve at the pleasure of the president. Rather than addressing the substance of the criticism, he once again leaned on that single explanation. A clear pattern has emerged, according to his critics. He struggles to explain controversial personal decisions, avoids defending the outcomes of key operations, and repeatedly shifts the focus away from his own leadership. At the same time, cybersecurity concerns have continued to grow. Reports indicate that the Chinese-linked hacking group known as Salt Typhoon maintained access to a National Guard network for months, allegedly obtaining administrator credentials and sensitive network information. Opponents argue that incidents like these raise serious questions about security and oversight under Hegseth's leadership. For critics, these aren't isolated setbacks. They point to what they see as a broader pattern of ineffective leadership and a lack of accountability at the Pentagon.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Secretary, I said in your hearing, when you had your confirmation hearing, that my biggest concern with you at the helm was the potential use of the military in ways that contradict the Constitution or that taint what I hope we all want, which is an apolitical military. And when I asked you about whether you would accept an order that was actually given to your predecessor, Secretary Esper, Trump's SecDef, to deploy active duty troops against unarmed protesters and to, in Secretary Esper's words, shoot at them, shoot at their legs, you said this was all theoretical. Here we are, a few months later, you've deployed 4,700 troops to Los Angeles and against the wishes of the governor. And my colleague across the aisle was right. It is the first time since 1965 that we have deployed Guard troops without the permission of the governor. In all the instances he laid out, the president had sent in the military to protect protesters, not against the protesters. So you may dismiss it, But I feel like this is a fundamental issue of American democracy. If you love your country and you want an apolitical military, then it should be the last resort, not the first resort in our country to use them. So to get to the non-theoretical, have you authorized the uniformed military to detain or arrest protesters in Los Angeles?
Senator, I would just start by saying you're not a protester if you're throwing concrete
100%.
at law
Arrest those
enforcement
people.
officers.
Throw them in the jail. 100%. But what you're doing is something different. Everyone knows this is a political decision, right? So we don't trust that you're using the best interests of the military, certainly, and of democracy on top of that. So have you given the order? That's all I want to know. It's not theoretical. For the U.S. military, not law enforcement. They can arrest all day long. That's their job. Do they have the ability, the uniformed military, to arrest and detain protesters currently today? It's a yes or no thing. Authority.
It's sort of amusing the extent to which the speculation is out there. These troops are given very clear orders.
Then what is the order? Then list it out for us. Be a man. List it out. Did you authorize them to detain or arrest? That is a fundamental issue of democracy. I'm not trying to be a snot here. I'm just trying to get the actual. Did you authorize them to do that?
All of these orders and what they're sent there to do are public. They are there
so
to
say it. So say it. Yes or no?
I'd like to.
Please, yes or no?
As I've said time and time again through interruption, they're there to protect law enforcement.
Do they have
ICE
the ability
officers
to arrest?
who are trying to do their job, deporting illegals who were allowed in by the previous administration.
So they cannot arrest and detain citizens of the United States, the uniformed military.
As we've stated, if necessary, in their own self-defense, they could temporarily detain and hand over to ICE. But there's no arresting going on. And you know this better than you're trying to play political games. There's no arresting of U.S. personnel.
Of the U.S. military against members of the protest. Have you authorized U.S. military cyber tools to investigate people participating in these protests? Yes or no?
This is the line.
This is a line that previous defense secretaries were reluctant to cross. Nearly 4,700 troops were deployed into an American city over the objections of the state's governor, the first deployment of its kind since 1965. During the hearing, Pete Hegseth was asked a straightforward yes or no question: can the U.S. military detain or arrest protesters? Instead of giving a direct answer, he shifted the conversation to self-defense, the protection of ICE personnel, and broader security concerns. He never simply said no. For critics, that hesitation was significant. They argue it reflected an unwillingness to clearly define the limits of military authority in domestic operations. Rather than drawing a firm constitutional boundary, Hegseth left the question open, fueling concerns about how military power could be used in the future.
Certainly in no way that I'd be aware of.
Okay, that's good. I love that answer. That's great. Have you given the order to be able to shoot at unarmed protesters in any way? I'm just asking the question. Don't laugh. Like the whole country. And by the way, my colleagues across the aisle.
What is that based on? What evidence would you have that an order like that has ever been given?
It is based on Donald Trump giving that order to your predecessor, to a Republican Secretary of Defense, who I give a lot of credit to because he didn't accept the order. He had more guts and balls than you because he said, I'm not going to send in the uniformed military to do something that I know in my gut isn't right. He was asked to shoot at their legs. He wrote that in his book. That's not hearsay. So your poo-pooing of this, it just shows you don't understand who we are as a country, who we are. And all of my colleagues across the aisle, especially the ones that served, should want an apolitical military and not want citizens to be scared of their own military. I love the military. I served alongside my whole life, so I'm worried about you tainting it. Have you given the order? Have you given the order that they can use lethal force against honor? I want the answer to be no. Please tell me it's no. Have you given the order?
Senator, I'd be careful what you read in books and believing it, except for the Bible.
Oh my God. So your former predecessor, I guess that's not enough for you. Okay, on Iran, I don't think there's a debate.
Mark Esper was ordered to have troops shoot protesters in the legs, and he said no. He put the institution above the president. Hegseth's answer to that history is a smirk and a line about the Bible. That is not strength. That is contempt for the very limit that keeps the American military from becoming a domestic political weapon. I have watched secretaries of both parties protect that line. This one will not.
there's like a cat fight going on in your own party about whether to go after Iran. Have you commissioned any day after planning? So any force protection, any use of ground troops in Iran, any cost assessments? Because I don't think we doubt what we can do as a country in the attack. It's the day after with Iraq and Afghanistan that so many of us have learned to be so deeply concerned about. Have you authorized day after planning?
As I've said, we have plans for everything, Senator.
As I've said, Senator, we have plans for everything. That was Pete Hegseth's response when the questioning became more serious. But critics argued the statement offered little substance. There were no concrete figures, no direct accountability, and no clear explanation of the policies being discussed. From being unable to say how many senior military leaders had been dismissed, to defending costly operations with disputed results, to avoiding direct answers about the limits of military authority at home, opponents say the same pattern keeps emerging. They argue Hegseth repeatedly sidesteps difficult questions instead of addressing them head-on, raising broader concerns about transparency and leadership inside the Department of Defense. For his critics, the issue is no longer a single hearing or a single controversy. They contend that Hegseth is less focused on providing independent military leadership and more focused on carrying out President Donald Trump's agenda, leaving the public to judge the consequences of those decisions.
We have some breaking news. A federal judge just ruled that both President Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth violated the law by using the military in the Los Angeles area over the summer. The Trump administration deployed thousands of federalized California National Guard members and Marines during an immigration crackdown in June. And this decision comes as the president weighs, as we were just talking about, whether to send National Guard members to other cities, as he has done in Washington, D.C. Joining us now is former federal prosecutor and Politico magazine senior writer Ankush Khardori. Ankush, thank you for coming here. So what is the judge's reasoning here?
Well, the judge's reasoning is fairly straightforward. He says that the Posse Comitatus Act prevents the deployment of the military on U.S. soil for normal law enforcement operations. And he held, after conducting a trial on this matter, that the National Guard was deployed in California for normal law enforcement operations, arrests, searches, stops, helping execute search warrants and things like that. And he said that this is illegal. And one thing I would point out that may get lost in the shuffle as we cover this is not really going to be relevant given the president runs the Justice Department effectively, but violations of the Posse Comitatus Act are a crime under ordinary circumstances, a low-level crime, but a crime nonetheless.
So what would the consequences be potentially for the president or defense secretary? Also, given the fact that this is after the National Guard had been deployed there and then left.
Yeah, so as to the criminal side, I mean, again, I don't expect the Justice Department to do anything about this since it's now the Trump Justice Department.
In September 20,
a federal judge ruled that the deployment of National Guard troops and Marines to Los Angeles violated the Posse Comitatus Act, warning that it risked turning the military into a domestic policing force. Retired senior military leaders echoed those concerns, arguing that using troops in American cities should remain an extraordinary last resort. At the same time, the Pentagon faced growing internal turmoil. Several of Pete Hegseth's senior advisors departed or were removed following the Signal chat controversy, with reports describing widespread dysfunction and leadership problems. Critics claimed experienced officials were being replaced by a smaller circle of loyalists, while supporters argued the changes were part of broader reforms. Opponents also pointed to cybersecurity failures, including the reported Salt Typhoon breach, questions over Red Sea operations, and Hegseth's congressional testimony as evidence of weak leadership. Supporters, however, maintained that he was carrying out President Trump's defense agenda and implementing necessary changes. The controversy has evolved into a broader debate over military leadership, executive authority, accountability, and the proper role of the armed forces in American democracy.